Hello, everybody, and welcome to Take Your Time, a Persona podcast where we play through Persona 3 Reload in real time, along with the in-game calendar dates. I'm Tom Marks, joined as always by Jonathon Dornbush.
Tom,
Jonathon, how are you?
I come from the Christmas spirit of beyond, and the past, and the present. Ooh.
I thought, well, Beyond is your past. So
Beyond, yes. Weirdly, it's the same ghost. It's just me yelling about PlayStation.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm all right. As I was telling you before the show, we're trading off weeks. I got sick this week. You got sick last week. Such is the winter months and life.
Boy, I will tell you, there was not many silver linings to the pandemic, but there was a blissful 2 years where I just never got a cold because I was never going outside of my house.
Yeah.
And I miss that specific part.
That one thing.
That one very specific thing. I do not wish any of the other stuff to come back.
But yeah, I
not
feel
getting
like
sick was fun.
I've definitely feel like the rebound of yearly cold amount has gone up quite a bit for me.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine all our immune systems got screwed or whatever.
Where to begin? So many things did.
Yeah.
That's a different show.
It is. This week, we're talking about December 14th to the 21st. This is a slightly longer week, I believe, and we're covering it's slightly longer, but also basically shorter week, I guess is the right way to put it. We're covering all of finals, which was 6 days, technically 5 full blocked off days, and then ending on the day that exam results are announced, which, spoilers, were both Mitsuru's best boys.
You don't know that. I could have flubbed everything.
He's just screwed up
really
all the
messed
questions.
It up right at the end, yeah.
No, you got to get those trophies. I know you.
I couldn't disappoint her.
But that's what we got to talk about. But before we do that, let's do our confidant call out. Of course, if you are supporting the show, watching the show, enjoying the show, we really appreciate you. Leaving likes, subscribing, sharing with friends who like Persona, that sort of thing is greatly, greatly appreciated. But we want to do a special shout out to the folks at our Palace Ruler tier at patreon.com/takeyourtime. And those folks are Akechi is a Jelly Bean, Astro Clock Tower, Brody S, Cameron C, Claudia R, Dallas, Damon, Dan, Default Titus, Dexter, I Killed Gods for Fun, Caitlin E, Keegan H, Mad Attack, Metaphor Fantasio Game of the Year nominee, which maybe we'll talk about on our bonus episode, spoilers, Michael V, Programmer Sid, Sam K, Sarah M, Shade, Willie Wang Wang, and Zachary L. Thank you very, very much to all those folks and everyone who supports us at patreon.com/takeyourtime. We really, really appreciate your support. Helps us make this show a reality. Let's also do I guess I teased it, so I'll mention it real quick.
Sure.
We will have our bonus episode for December going out in the next month, or in the next week, probably shortly after this show, roughly in that timeline. And we're going to be talking about our kind of favorite games of the year. We're going to be looking back at 2024 and talking about maybe more than just RPGs, but honestly, dang.
You could do a top 5 RPGs and still miss about 80% of the good ones that came out this year.
You could do a top 5 RPGs list and tell me it was your top 5 games of the year list, and I would just fully believe you.
And it would be fine. Yeah. It would be a reasonable...
Not even as an RPG-only diehard.
No.
As a normal... Not that those folk aren't normal, but as a just
as a non-weirdo.
Yeah, as a normie. No, as just a general list. So we're going to be talking about our favorites, some of the specific favorites. We're going to call some out. It will probably not only be about Metaphor, but, as you've seen online, some people, not just the nominee, it's the winner.
Rightly so. We'll talk about it in the bonus episode.
We get to the bonus episode. Bullshit.
It was in my bottom 5 for the year. I actually hated it. Yeah, it's pure garbage.
This long con we've been playing.
Yeah.
Before we get into the actual dates, let's do our pop quiz results.
Yes.
Last week, during the study session with Junpei Fuka and Yukari, I asked, are you taking a victory lap there?
Yeah, I knew this one so immediately. I've never felt prouder about a pop quiz this season.
Junpei asks to borrow a bunch of materials, but somebody also asks to borrow a material from him, and he's very particular about it. Like, very un-Junpei, like, really pointedly careful about this thing. And I asked, what is that thing? I know you know it, but did we get any people writing in?
Don't take his eraser. Don't you dare do it, Yukari. Yes, Francis and Sable both got it correct in the Discord. Excuse me, not the Discord, the Patreon. I don't know how systems work anymore. But yes, so hats off to both of you. Sable mentioned the eraser. And Francis went into detail about like the not wanting to use like the corners of it and all that.
Yeah. He will lend Yukari his eraser, but she can't wear down any of the sharp corners because that's for the eraser's own. The satisfaction of filing those down is just for him. And he's very, it's a very charming character quirk for him where he's this easygoing guy for so many things. And then his eraser, he's very, very particular about.
It's fun. It's a good bit. It is definitely, to your point, like, of all the things for Junpei to care about, it's a school-related utensil. But,
right.
Yeah, you know?
No, but and it doesn't feel out of character. It's like we found his thing.
Yes, yeah, it's very cute. I always, those kids who like had particular favorite things of like, oh, I loved a certain folder or a certain pen or whatever. It makes sense that someone would obsess over an eraser like this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Should we jump into the week?
Let's. We got so much to rocket through. This is going to be.
So the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th are all just exam, ask a question, move on to the next day. And I did write down the question. So the first day, it's about where was the number 0 invented, essentially, in India. That's one. The second was about that sweet potato enzyme thing, why cooking sweet potatoes makes them sweeter. The third one, what?
If I may, just because there's nothing to talk about for exams,
Please.
Let's be real. I had the greatest sweet potato of my life last month. Genuinely.
Was it cooked?
What?
Was it cooked?
I mean, yeah. It was.
What enzyme did that create?
I don't remember, man. You think I remember that? No, but I remember this potato. We went to a restaurant for my fiance's birthday, a Korean restaurant, and they did like a sweet potato that isn't even on the menu. It was just like a special, like a limited time special they were doing. And it was just like the tastiest, sweetest. It was butter and like this sour cream with it. And It was just so rich and delicious. And I have been dreaming about that sweet potato ever since. It was so good.
Wow.
Anyway.
Now you get to... the exam didn't pay off. Never mind. I was going to be like, now you get to put this to good use, but nope.
Nah.
All that studying.
Anyway.
Mitsuru will be so ashamed. The next question I don't remember because I just wrote down the word Venus. So, shame on me, I guess.
Oh, I think it was something about like what people were named for, what month someone was named for, I think. Yeah.
Sure. The next day was about the tale of Genji and the cherry blossoms that are iconic in that. And then the final one was about the plural of goose. Or more specifically, it gave us 4 plurals and asked which is the wrong one. And it was geeses.
Which is fun to say. I say meeses sometimes for moose.
Is there... You ever see that? Was Brian Regan? Is that the stand-up comic that did the question about box?
He's not the guy with the puppets, is he? No, he's not the puppet guy.
No. That's Jeff. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's fine. Jeff Puppet Guy. All the guys. Brian Regan. Okay. Sorry. A lot of the early 2000s Comedy Central guys I would watch on like a Saturday afternoon have blended together in my mind.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing, though, about calling out, I realized after the fact, any... stand-up comic nowadays is I quickly went to Brian Regan's Wikipedia page and just looked for headers that said controversy.
Yeah.
But there's none, so we're good. I can call him out.
Right. Good.
Look up his joke about rhymes.
Unless this is in the future and there is a controversy subhead.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't count the guy out, I guess.
Yeah.
Moving on the 19th is technically still an exams day, but it's the last day, so you just get a little message that says, "Ooh, my pen is moving so fast. These are so easy if you did them all right." Something we've never really talked about real quick, though, as a very fast aside. I do love that this game, that the Persona games don't let you look up the, like, what did other people say thing for the tests. That feels... Mechanically, it does not make any sense, and thematically, it feels very fitting.
Yes, yeah, I was going to say, thematically, it totally works for what these need to be.
Yeah.
I do wonder, this is a very big tangent, but I do wonder if and how quizzes and tests might change in a theoretical Persona 6, just because at the end of the day, you just go to a guide and make sure you get the answer right. Like, there's really nothing to these that is substantive. I can kind of understand this in an early internet era being a little bit more of like a challenge, but now there is literally no reason, unless you're just trying to play pure, that you can't just go look up the answer immediately. The
thing I would like to see is if the answers to the test questions, or to the in-class quiz questions, if you could learn the answers by talking to random people around town or school before you got to that class session, you could have a conversation that would give you an answer. That would be fun. I'm surprised it's not like that, honestly. Yeah. Anyway, tangent over, exams over. We have I think this is just a free day. It's just a full-on free day, except it's also a very story-heavy free day if you did what I did.
Well, you'll have to tell me, because I hung out with Mitsuru and got her to rank 8, and then I took Koromaru for a walk and ran into Tomochika.
You had this, like, total cash day, and I hung out with Junpei, which I was sure you weren't going to do. Mm-hmm. And then I hung out with Akihiko, which was the thing from the previous one.
Yes.
That I skipped.
Okay. Spoilers, and we'll obviously talk about it in a little bit, because that's just how we're going to have to do next week. I have played a little bit ahead. So I did that next week. I don't know if you want to wait to talk about it next week, or we can do it now. Whatever works for you.
The Akihiko one?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's talk about them now.
Go for it.
So the Junpei one is that you he buys you takoyaki and takes you to the shrine to eat it. And then it's just him apologizing for blowing up at you and sort of reflecting on, he reflects a really interesting point as he reflects on how he understands now why Chidori was mad at him when she said, "What are you going to be doing in 2 years?" And he was like, "I don't know." 'Cause like, she didn't have that time and knew she didn't have that time. And he just like was wasting his life, essentially, just saying, "I don't know what I'm doing." And now that they have death looming over them, he kind of understands why that was so offensive to her, which is a really interesting reflection for him to have, and kind of insight in himself to have. And then this is the start, for me at least, of a trend of this week about how you start getting answers from your friends this week about the big question of Nyx and Ryoji.
Yeah.
And so this is where he tells you to go with your gut. You know, no one can decide. Go with your gut. Do what you think you're going to do, because you're special. And he's always been sort of jealous of you for being so special. And he very pointedly says, like, he doesn't really think forgetting it about everything would be so bad. He obviously doesn't want it. He wouldn't prefer that. But he doesn't think it's the end of the world if that's what happens. And he sort of just trusts you to make the decision. Yeah. And that's sort of his stance that we get.
What growth this boy has had.
I
really
know.
Nice.
He's really come a long way.
Yeah. It's really impressive to see, I think, especially knowing when this was originally out and just how far back that is of a really, really clear and strong, impressive arc to give this character is wonderful to have. Yeah.
I will say, I know we're not done.
Mm-hmm.
I so far haven't been blown away by the story of this game, but I have been blown away by the characters.
I see that. Yeah.
I think that the story itself, I'm enjoying it. I'm
Sure.
still having fun. I'm still really excited to see where it's going. But I've had this game's story hyped up for me a lot. And the story itself is like cool to me, but the characters and the character arcs that they genuinely are changing and going through stuff and seeing themselves differently, and the conversations they have within that story have been really, really compelling to me the whole way through.
Totally. Yeah. I'll not say more because I'll wait until we obviously get further. But
there's plenty more game, right? Like a whole lot could change.
Maybe.
A whole lot could get
Maybe
revealed.
it ends next week. You don't know.
Yeah. We just forget, and that's the end.
Darn.
I do hope, I don't know if I've said this, I do hope that the game gives you a choice and that you actually have to make a choice, because I think that was a thing in P5, if I don't remember correctly.
You could get a bad ending.
Yeah, there's a choice you can make that just is like, well, okay, the game's over, and you just lose.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun to have.
Yeah, so I hope they do a similar thing here where they at least give you a choice and you can just end the game in a loss, pretty much. Then in the evening, I hung out with Akihiko. You said, oh wait, real quick, you said you hung out with Mitsuru, right?
During the day, yes, yeah.
We were planning to potentially talk about Mitsuru as a confidant, like the confidant line, at the end of this episode. So just a heads up for people. We'll obviously tell you when we do, but I forgot to say that at the top. Akihiko's thing is that he makes you run. He makes you run a lot. So you run to the shrine with him. Excuse me. You run to the shrine with him, and then those dudes that have been hounding you every time you just try to get a bite to eat with him show up and corner you, and there's like a dozen of them, and they threaten your friends because they know where you live, and they say, hey man, if you hit us, the boxing team is going to get disbanded, and then you're going to bring shame to everybody, that all those people, you're going to disappoint them. And Akihiko's basically like, yes.
Time to fight.
It's so good because he's like, yeah, that is going to happen. And I don't want it to happen. And I'll live with that for the rest of my life after I beat your face in.
Yep.
It's like such a threatening thing to say.
They kind of freak out. It's clearly not what they thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you two, you're like, I'll join in. This is fun. Let's do this.
To be like, I'm going to live with the pain, with the consequences of murdering you for my entire life. Hand me that gun is like, oh my God.
I'm willing to ruin my future prospects to show you how little you are.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's scary. He's rad.
It's great. It's a great line. He says, I wrote down a whole line just because I love it so much. He says, I will protect what's important to me. That's why I have these fists. Man,
right.
What a line.
Yeah. It's so good.
And then you two beat the crap out of all of them. It's not even barely an inconvenience. Like, it's just really, you just melt them.
They're just gone. I love the shot of the final guy falling as it like cuts back from the fight that they don't show you, and it's just, collapse. Yeah.
It's very like Samurai Showdown fight where you just like clash swords and it cuts away and then they're all on the ground.
Yeah, it's adorable. I love it.
Akihiko basically tells them, hey, if I ever see you again, I'll kill you. Mm-hmm. And they go, okay.
I would believe him.
Like, he doesn't say that. He's like, if you show your face around here again, you know what's going to happen. And it's like, he's just going to murder them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. He's so cool.
He's a badass.
Yeah.
And then you go back to his room to hang out, which is full of all his trophies. And he wanted he wanted you to know that what he's been working on, and how like working on himself, and the appraiser kind of making him question if he actually has any power, what he's actually gotten strong for, if he's just gonna die anyway and it doesn't matter. And he says, and this is his moment of saying what his answer is, he says, no matter what you decide, he's going to fight. He's going to do what he's got to do. He's going to stand up to whoever he's got to stand up. And that's sort of his stance, is like he wants to fight because that's what he has been doing. That's what he has been working for, is to protect the people he loves. This scene is also really long because then it keeps going.
Very long. Yeah.
And it goes on to this thing of like, he sees the medal that his sister made him, and he said he was going to send it back to his parents because he's not sure if he deserves it yet, and you tell him not to do that. And now he's stronger because he has friends who not only that he wants to fight for, but fight with, and that makes him even stronger. And he's going to pay you back one day. And then he also says, oh, thanks, I want to thank you for helping with those dudes, and he offers to give you dumbbells.
What a guy. What a class act. Yeah, it's very funny.
It's a really long scene, but it's a lot of really interesting character growth, character revelation. It's just a lot and all packed in there.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, there have probably been times where we got a little bit more piecemeal with some other characters, like Junpei, whereas I do definitely feel like with Aki, we get stuff more in fits and starts. And this is, I think, a good example of that, where it's like, it leads to a little bit more kind of not lore dumpy, but just explanatory, catching you up on his emotional state. But it is good stuff here, like him being of the mind that I still want to fight and I still want to make that happen, but I'm not going to try to just do it alone. I'm not going to be foolish in that way, is a really sweet full circle moment for him.
Well, it's also really sweet, really smart that they saved this fight with these thugs till after the appraiser reveal.
Yes.
Because his whole thing is that he's been working to be super strong, and he could have beaten these dudes up, but he didn't. And then finally, when we beat these dudes up, it's like, well, it doesn't matter anymore. Why did I ever even get that strong where I could beat these guys up if it doesn't even matter anymore?
Yeah.
And it's him having to work through that is really compelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you get some max SP. Goes up by 3. Oh, yeah, Junpei also gave you courage, but who cares about that?
It's so funny when you get some of those points, and I'm like, why? Why do I need this?
Yeah. So we only have 2 more days, but we are going to be taking... This is another thing I forgot to mention at the top of the show because I'm bad at my job. We're going to be taking questions from folk. We're going to be chatting with audience stuff. We got some more to this episode than just these 2 last days because not a ton happens in these last 2 days. The 20th, we do get a scene at the beginning, which is Mitsuru visiting Yukari in her room, reminding us, oh yeah, they're friends now. And Yukari sort of teases her, basically being like, you just came here because you wanted to chat, didn't you? And they have like a cute little back and forth moment with that. And then they sort of wonder what Nyx is like, what this otherworldly being is like. And Yukari sort of susses out that the real reason Mitsuru is here is to ask her what she thinks, what she's decided already. And again, this is 2 more people that we get a sense of which way they're leaning in all of this now, which I like seeing these roll out because last week was very much like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And I was a little bit nervous that the whole month was just going to be like them being like, oh man, and then the last day them deciding something.
Yeah.
So I like that there's this natural feeling sort of coming to terms with it, deciding what people want that is being rolled out here.
Yeah, I think it's a really effective use of the fact that this game takes place over time because it does get you to explore that. Obviously, we are somewhat at a disadvantage the way we play the game for the show that you are hung on that week of like, oh, they're just kind of going, what are we going to do? And it is, I think it is.
Not that I was worried about it necessarily.
No, I know, but it is a natural thought to be like, oh man, I hope it isn't, another 10 hours of just what are we going to do? And the fact that the game does progress that, but it isn't marked by like a major story moment necessarily here. It is just, this is, after a week or 2, people are starting to feel a certain way, and that makes sense.
Yeah. Yukari says she wants to fight to the end. Mitsuru basically says, there's no other option really. I gotta fight it out. And Mitsuru has this sort of self-reflecting moment talking about the Kirijo group. And she's like, I'm going to have to take over the Kirijo group one day. And hopefully I'm around to do that still. But even if we go fight Nyx and win and I die, then they'll get on without me. Like, it'll be okay, right? So they're being very real about the idea that, like, even if they do fight and miraculously figure out a way to win, they might not come back from it themselves.
Yeah.
And that's okay. They still want to confront it, or at least Mitsuru and Yukari do. They also have a funny moment where like they're like, Nyx is apparently unkillable, but like, so's our leader. So are you. You're basically unkillable as far as we've seen.
Well, unless we get in a bad, sort of fight where there's a one-shot kill, but that's neither here nor there.
Or if Takaya ever decides to use his gun.
If he ever figures that little thing out, it would be over.
He decides to bring more than one bullet to each fight.
Darn, I forgot to reload again. All right, I'll see you all next time.
He brings one blank as like a warning shot for dramatic effect, and then one bullet.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, and Mitsuru also says that she just wants to be with everyone through all of this, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter as they live or die, as long as Yukari says as long as they're proud of what they do, as long as they're confident with what they've chosen, that's what's important. And so they're gonna fight. They're gonna do the fight.
More resolve, more determination, but I think distinct enough from that Aki scene.
Yeah.
And the Junpei stuff that it really works for who these two characters are. Yeah.
Yep. We also get a mention of when we're just walking around, because this is just sort of free time today, but there's mention, if you talk to Junpei, of Strega hasn't made their move yet. I wonder what they're going to do. So this is sort of like, I'm expecting something Strega-y to come up soon-ish, because usually the game likes seeding that sort of stuff in. And I also made me realize, and I wanted to talk about this, that it recontextualizes Strega in my head, because like, previously I was like, I wonder what their plan is going to be to do this stuff with the stopping us. But now we just know we're all doomed. So now when they think about Strega, they don't think about like, what's their plan going to be? They're just like, yeah, Strega killed Shinji and Chidori. Like, screw them.
Mm-hmm.
When are we going to get our revenge on them before all of this? Like, when are we going to bring them to justice? It's not really about machinations that we haven't heard about, or that we don't know what's going on yet. It is, oh, right, we just don't like them because they killed two of our friends.
A reasonable reaction, I would say. But yes, again, I think it speaks to the clever use of, not scale maybe is the wrong word, but just the level of threat, and to the point of what you had said earlier in the season, of the idea of just, they're not these megalomaniac, kind of people who are just world domination. Like, there's more to them. They're also maybe lower tier than you thought they were, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. There's a lot going on to them that's more nuanced. Yeah.
They definitely have not gone where I thought they were going to go.
Yeah.
So that was a little chat. But what did you do? Give me day and night.
I maxed out Hayase. So
congrats.
My race rival and the track stars that we are, came to an end in good fashion, I would say.
Good.
And then in the evening, I played an arcade game to get my Persona's magic up, because the nights are quiet.
I did that one too.
Nice. What'd you do during the day?
I got Sumitsu to rank 7.
Oh.
Stuff got weird.
Yeah. It
got weird really quickly, and in a really unexpected way.
Yeah. I know where you are. Yeah.
It's also, without spoilers, I understand now why you said it is fitting for the end of the game.
Right? I told you, this one is better than it really sets itself up for, in terms of like entertainment value.
Yeah, because I'll spoil this part. Is not part of his story. Just like the reason it connects so well is because you could have this conversation months ago, right? But at this moment in the game, I went to this scene with Suemitsu, and he said, "The world is going to end soon. All of humanity is going to get wiped out." And I went, "What?" How do you know? I know that, but how do you know that?
You shouldn't be part of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's great. It's so
And again,
funny.
I won't talk about specific. We can talk about him later.
Yeah.
Because I am racing to the end of his at this point now.
Good,
'Cause
good.
What in the world just happened?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really funny. You know, it's the same thing with the Shinji conversation when he's gardening, and he has that moment of like, you know, wondering if it even really matters or whatever it is, and kind of self-reflection, like he knows he's dying, and if you hadn't done his storyline already where he tells you he's dying, you wouldn't know that was what was going on at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just interesting.
It's really cute. Yeah.
So yeah, I got Suimitsu to 7, and then I also did the arcade in the evening.
Cool.
And then our last day, we got our exam results. Top of the grade.
Top of the class.
Yeah.
Give us the presents, Mitsuru.
Hooray.
Yeah.
You get a lecture about electromagnetism.
Pointless.
Which you can sleep through or not.
Who cares? I don't need these points anymore. Get them out of here.
It's true. There's not even an exam anymore.
I mean, it is something to be said for the idea that the game is cognizant of the idea that, hey, people aren't like always playing perfectly or whatever, and you might still need points at this stage. Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but after that, I went down and talked to Mitsuru and got a little gift.
What a surprise. Yes, I did as well.
Yeah. And she gave us 4 of that incense.
Oh, yeah, it was quite a lot. Yeah.
This is the moment when I realized I have never used any incense ever, because I kept thinking it was like, in my brain, it's just stuck that it's like P5 incense where you have to like use it in the jail and in, you know, the Velvet Room, and it's very slow to use. Whereas this, you can just like use
click.
it all on any party member.
Welcome to my first playthrough as well, because I did the same thing where I think it was around here and I was like, maybe I should look at using this incense, which probably to some people out there will sound crazy, but
Yeah, I just hadn't thought about it. I looked at it. I have enough of just the power incense to give any persona 22 power.
yeah,
And I think I have basically similar amounts
of magic
for all
and-
of the
yeah.
stats.
Oh, it's super helpful to use. I highly recommend it. But yes, yeah.
God. So I'm going to use some of that, I guess. I'll probably just like go to the person I want all the power on and put it on the power, and then go to the magic and do that.
It'll help make you super powerful as you get into, you know, the next Tartarus and all that.
That's like a ton of levels.
Yeah. Yeah, it's real good. My recommendation is to use it on party members and not you, just because you will
Yes.
probably be switching your persona out so much. But yeah.
So what did you do day and night?
Well, I went to talk to Mitsuru. I had forgotten about the gift because I was going to hang out with her, because I confusingly wrote them down in the wrong order, but I was going to get Mitsuru. Or no, this isn't Mitsuru. Forgive me. I'm looking at a different day. I max linked Miyamoto because I hadn't been doing that. I was stuck on him.
Amazing.
And so I was waiting until the website was around. So I finally got around to thinking about him on the website a while back. And yeah, now we're finally max rank.
Incredible.
Yeah. So that was my day.
Well, better late than never.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about the night?
The night I took a walk with Koromaru and Fuka.
Okay, I did the same. So during
Cool.
the day, I got Yukari to rank 4.
Cool.
And then during the evening, I took the walk, and I was very disappointed because I was hoping that this would be like Fuka's moment to tell us how she's leaning, and then it
Yeah.
was just sort of like, it was just like a conversation about microwave cake and how Koromaru's butt was all dusty, and they're gonna have to bathe together. And I was like, what's going on? We're about to die.
It's about what I would expect from one of these walks, though, to be fair. Keeping it lighthearted. But yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the week.
Yeah, that's the week. Oh, I also, at some point during this week, discovered that I had missed a monitor video of Ken in his room training and then chugging milk.
Little weirdo that he is. I love it.
So that was fun.
Yeah. It's very cute.
Yeah. So you haven't maxed your Mitsuru yet.
No, but I have in my prior experience.
Well, let's wait. Let's wait a
Okay.
little longer, because
All
I
right.
imagine you're not the only one. So we'll wait
Okay.
a little longer on that. But let's hear from the readers, the viewers, the listeners,
Let's
whatever.
do it. The writers, why not? because they did write into us. I'm actually going to pull up from Mac, who wrote into the email, so I appreciate it's a little bit longer. But this one is obviously a little bit spoilery, but this is a follow-up to our conversation last week about Fuka's social link and how, both of us, I would say it is not our favorite and was in fact a little disappointing to both of us. Mac had a different perspective on it, and I really appreciated what they wrote, so I wanted to read through it. So it's a little bit longer, but hi there. I hope the season is treating you well and you both get healthy. Thank you, Mac. Unfortunately not this week, but maybe next time.
One day.
I thought I'd chime in with a defense of Fuka's social link since the cooking sections of the game are new to Reload. Fuka and Shinji were the only ones with cooking, so those arcs didn't really tread the same ground in the OG, which is totally fair. Yeah,
I did think about that, and it is fair.
Also, in my opinion, Fuka's social link is about her self-worth and how her parents affected that. While I agree that early links are a bit repetitive, the discussion around the parents adds context to why she's acting the way she does. One of the greatest strengths and weaknesses of Persona 3 is that it will give you just enough information and leave you to extrapolate on it, rather than explain how everything affects everything else. As someone with similar parents and struggles with self-worth, it makes it hard to see the things you do well and how those things positively affect others. This is apparent early in the link, as she doesn't accept praise for what she does as a nav or treats it as good enough. The culmination of that arc is her giving you the headphones, something she is good at, showing she is accepting her worth. It would undermine everything about her, in my opinion, if the social link focused on something she was already good at. To draw a comparison to another nab, it'd be like if Futaba's social link was about computers instead of her social anxiety. As a final note, one of my favorite things about Persona 3, which seems to be less popular with you guys, we'll talk about that at some point, but is that in almost all of the social links, the problems that characters had are largely unresolved or resolved without your input. Since the game is about how people choose to live their lives, I think it is more interesting to see what the characters choose to do, rather than the main character having a savior complex and resolving everyone's problems like in 5. Just providing a different viewpoint, really enjoying the show. Keep up with the good work, Mac.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that input a lot. I both didn't think about sort of specifically implications of Fuka's stuff was in that regard. Even if I maybe feel, that it still took too long to get to it, like, he himself alluded to that the early stuff is a little bit repetitive in that way. But yeah, I think that the way it can recontextualize that early stuff is very interesting. I don't have a problem with, I don't know if it's come off that way that I have a problem with you not solving problems, I guess, yourself, but I don't know. I didn't read that as a read I had on the game.
Tom, it's fine. I know you hate the game. You can just say it. I thought that was, especially the point. I would agree with you still in the sense of, like, I do feel, and obviously Mac, also was speaking about it. It is definitely a little repetitive at the start. I feel like the parent stuff, I probably didn't connect those dots as well. One, maybe just because that's not my, like, shared experience, which to Mac's point, like, having that obviously, it allows you to see that through really well. I do feel like maybe, I guess it could have been a little bit more integrated would be my, like, thing then. I wish that, like, it was maybe a little bit in there early on, but I also could have just missed it. It's very possible. So,
and I think that's also a valuable part of this, is that it's valuable to me to hear that this is a legitimate experience people have, and like, because to me it felt very out of left field, and so to hear that somebody who has gone through similar stuff in their own life, or even maybe not necessarily that somebody identifies with that stuff and can see themselves in that stuff, even if it's not necessarily similar experiences, is valuable to know, right? Because it's not something I did, and that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And so, yeah, that's really cool to hear. I really thank you for writing in.
Yeah, I think it's, to that point, is one of the coolest things about art, and especially art this big, that so many people can get so much from it. And the fact that you are able to connect with that specific point, I think speaks so much to how well-rounded I think this game is, because there are certainly social links that I connect with just as strongly as it seems you do to the Fuka one. So it's
if you connect strongly with the Tanaka experience, please write in.
and seek help. Yeah, no, the ones I feel probably the most related to are Suimitsu, Tanaka, and the old monk. Why not?
Yeah.
But no, thank you, Mac, for that. I really appreciated that email, so thank you so much for writing in. Some of the recent comments, from last week. I guess this is a little bit spoiler for P3 portable stuff, but Dan wrote in to say, once again, in things that the female character did differently, the Fuka social link, just going off that too, is slightly changed and better. For one, her interests in machines and engineering comes up in rank 3, and it recurs a couple times where she implies she wants to be good at a more feminine hobby like cooking, despite her skill with machines, although it still could have been used more. Also, since you're cooking with Fuka versus her cooking for you, it changes the vibes in a nice way, and you get baked goods for each ranked up. It also contains the banger line, "You somehow defended the dough from all Fuka's attempts to deviate from the recipe. All the cookies survived." Which is very cute.
Yeah, that is interesting. That does really recontextualize it. And even, like, the idea that she knows, like, that she in the game addresses that she knows she's good at a non-girly thing and wants to try to appear more girly for her parents or whatever. I feel like I would have appreciated that context.
Yeah. It's interesting to see the differences there. Anytime we hear about it, it's one of those things where I'm like, I've played Persona 3 Reload now twice in 1 year. I don't know if I have it in me to like immediately jump into a portable playthrough anytime soon, but I would really like to see the differences with the female character at some point.
I would too. It's very disappointing that they never made that.
Yeah. Again, I understand from like probably a money reason why it did not happen, resource time.
Logistically, it is not a simple thing, but that does not make it not disappointing.
Exactly. Tremedlove, forgive me, 87, wrote in and said, Maiko's social link, to go off the ones we were talking about last week, also has one of the most brutal MC lines in the game. This adorable little girl comes to you crying and distraught that her parents are getting a divorce and that her family is falling apart. And one of your response choices is, "It's probably your fault," which you can choose if you are the literal worst person on the planet. I agree.
Yeah. It's so brutal. You can be really mean. There was something this week too, I think it was with Junpei, where you can just be so mean.
It's really interesting that happens sometimes. Yeah.
And it's not like there's a morality system. There's no consequences for it 90% of the time.
Yeah, there's no light dark system here that we're talking about. It's very funny. Just a interesting
I appreciate
one.
it.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about it. It's just like really funny how brutal they let you be sometimes.
Absolutely. Mark wrote in a couple weeks ago just with sort of like an overall thought that I thought was an interesting read. They said both P3R and P5R have party members who aren't human and who suffer from memory loss right up until the reveal of their respective final bosses. But whereas Morgana is boastful and insistent on his humanity, Aigis insists that she's just a machine that can be replaced and that no one will need to mourn her when she's gone. I would imagine that her saying that she doesn't deserve to exist because she can't fulfill her mission struck a nerve with a lot of people who, at one time or another, have had too much of their identity wrapped up in their grades or their careers. You're telling me, Mark. This theme of failure comes up over and over again in Persona 3. All of the members of S.E.E.S, to one extent or another, had some goal that they were working toward that ended in tragedy and/or disappointment. The loss of this sense of purpose can sort of feel like a kind of death as well, since it ties so heavily into our self-perception. Just something to keep in mind as the story moves along. And yeah.
Yeah, and that sort of touches a little bit on, or strikes the same chord as what I was saying earlier about like liking the characters more than I've liked the story so far. Is like, I don't mean that the general writing is bad. It is incredible how rich the subtext of this game is, and the way that the confidants or the social links tie into the larger themes of the game, sometimes before you even realize it, the way that then your characters are going through these different things like that with different forms of loss and exploring what that means, and sort of responsibility within that, and how you move on from that, how you live within it. That's all incredible. And like that sort of stuff I associate more with character stuff. If it's like, yeah, that's really amazing that they that they have characters exploring those themes and those ideas in that way. I guess by story, quote unquote, I really do mean like the narrative or whatever you want to, what term you want to use.
For sure. Yeah, it's I think I've been maybe more reticent to talk about things or to give too much opinion just because we are not at the end of the game. And
yeah. There's tons more.
It's
There's like anything, 5 more months, right?
Yeah, it's at least another year. I think for me, it's just more of a like a lot of the things that I love are sort of intrinsically tied to the end game of this game.
Sure.
And
I'm excited to be there.
Yeah. And like, even if you don't feel the same about it, I think that's fine. Like, we're different people.
I don't know if I don't yet.
Right? No, exactly. But it's one of those things where it's like, one, I don't want to put any more expectation on you because I know I came from a similar place of hearing like, oh my God, the story of this game, man. And so it's just hard not to have that in your head as you're going. So we'll have more to talk about at the end.
Yeah. But I'd love to hear from long-time Persona fans, because the thing I've always had told to me is 3 has the best story, 4 has the best party, 5 has the best mechanics, I guess would be the like gameplay.
Yeah.
Is like roughly what I've had it broken down for me.
Yeah. And I got to say, I really like this party, so bring it on, P4.
Yeah.
We'll see
how
but
it have goes. You met Heisme?
Oh, Heisme. Oh boy, top tier boy if I've ever met one. God, I love him.
Anyway,
so much.
Let's move on.
Yeah, that's a different show. Let me see, where was I going to pick from? There was just 1 or 2 more I wanted to read. Oh, we had an email that came in a little while ago that I thought would still be fun to read. This is from, as they put it helpfully at the end of their email, Katie. Who said, "Hey there, I am a big fan of the Take Your Time podcast. I discovered the P3 playthrough a few months ago, but ended up watching the P5R playthrough and played alongside you both. I wanted to help you both with some of the Irish Persona names. As we get they were like, a few of them got butchered. Unfortunately, no hate. It's a different language entirely. And they go on to give us a few very helpful phonetic pronunciations of them. I'm not going to risk my life right now because I'm sick still, but I just wanted to call out that I appreciated the kind help here.
What are some of the ones? What are the mispronunciations?
Well, I believe we were saying Chu-Chulane quite a bit.
Oh yeah, Cu-Chulane or whatever.
Which Cu-Chulane. It's Cu-Cullen or Cu-Cullan. Cu-Cullan.
Oh.
Depending on how you would do AN, I guess.
Right.
We were saying, well, I would be saying Queen Madba or Medba. Is just Queen Maeve. That's just Maeve.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they there's some of those that I know that are just like it's one of those things of like when a language is translated to an alphabet that it wasn't necessarily like, you know what I mean? It's just like in a couple layers of translation suddenly it just doesn't track to what English you would think of as because I know there's also stuff like Siobhan is spelt like Siobhan or something like that. And like, you know, how many entertainment interviewers have interviewed Saoirse Ronan and asked her how you pronounce your name or whatever.
That poor woman. Yeah, I was actually going to say there was an interview of her that I've seen like 12 times with Stephen Colbert that is essentially running through Irish names and how badly we butcher them in English in America.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say thank you. It was heard. I hope it sticks with me, but if I've mispronounced them since then, I apologize.
Well, the other thing that I like about that is that I know that these games pull sort of like from religious or mythological creatures and figures throughout lots of cultures. I didn't think about Irish culture as one of those. So like I was looking at those names and I wasn't even in that headspace.
That's fair.
And it's super, super cool to hear that also those are partly pulled from that culture. So that's neat that I like seeing how kind of wide they cast that net.
Yeah, absolutely. Those were most of the main ones I wanted to read from that came in recently. John did put one in just for reference, so you don't feel unheard, because I read almost every other comment from this post. Something about Mitsuru, but I feel like it'll be good to talk about when we talk about the full social.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Probably next week, maybe. We'll see.
That feels fair.
Okay.
But, yeah, thank you to everyone who's been writing in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. A little bit of a shorter episode this week because it's just been a little bit of a shorter week. And so next week, we are going to be talking about the 22nd through the 28th. So it'll be a normal 7-day week there. That will include Christmas, but it will then not include the full moon, which is at the end of the month. And so we're going to go into the whole finale of the thing the week after next. Additionally, we are going to be pre-recording because we want a little bit of a break for Christmas, but Christmas week is going to be busy for both of us. So we're going to be pre-recording the next episode, which means we will not have comments, will not have answers to the pop quiz question that I'm about to reveal, but we still would love you to comment or, engage, because we do check that stuff regardless, even if we're not going to be able to call those things out specifically in the episode. And we will have the question you just mentioned, potentially, if we do talk about Mitsuru next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about that.
Give me your quiz, Tom.
Okay. So after exams are done, there's a lot of new conversations that open up all around the school. You're just shaking your head already.
Go ahead. Just go ahead.
What does pubescent student want Santa to bring him for Christmas?
Oh, boy. I really try to avoid that kid like the plague, let me tell you.
Pubescent student, truly one of the worst NPCs in the entire game.
Intentionally so, I would say, but yes.
Yes. I'm not. That's a criticism of him as a character, not the game writing him.
Yeah.
He if you talk to him, he says, "Boy, I really hope Santa brings me something for Christmas," and he has a very specific request. And so what does pubescent student want for Christmas is your quiz for next week. You can let us know at dornology@gmail.com, youtube.com/dornology in the comments, patreon.com/takeyourtime if you want to support the show directly. We would really appreciate it, and you can leave comments there for the next episode. I'm at Marks on social. He's at JM Dornbush. You can get in touch with us directly there as well. And we want to hear from you, even if you are not supporting on Patreon. Like, share, subscribe. It really helps the show out. And we love hearing from you regardless. Because, pubescent student, he could ask for a lot of things.
We hear from him enough. I want to hear from you.
I think that's about that. 22nd to 20th next week, we'll be back. And Jonathan, no final words? Wow.
I hope, I was letting you do your thing. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday. That's what I got.
I gave you no call to
there was nothing for me to play off there. What do you want from me? You just pull magic out of thin air, just right out my ass? Here's an incredible segue that I have. No, Tom, I've been having this. I can't do that.
Well, then with that, we shall see you later.